Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon. All right. Thank you all so much for being here at the 11th annual Celebrating Strides for Tarrant County College District. Give yourselves a hand for being here today. All right. My name is Kara Walker. I'm the Director of Student Development Services for TCC Northeast Campus. We are thrilled that you all are in attendance here and online. Thank you all so much for your participation. As we get started, we'll have a couple of introductory remarks. And one of those introductions is going to be from our campus leader. I invite you to help me welcome Dr. Kenya Ayers-Palmore, President of the TCC Northeast Campus.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let's give a hand to our chef for today. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, with family from Selma, Alabama, and Rockmart, Georgia. I'd like to say I am a good judge of sweet potatoes. I'm also an ordained minister, and I just want to say those are anointed. So let's give it up again for the show. All right, Brother Morrison is giving a hallelujah up front. I'm so excited to have this opportunity just to welcome some of you to our campus, to welcome some of you back for our Celebrating Strides event. Celebrating Strides is Tarrant County College District's annual commemoration of the triumphs that are found throughout Black history and within modern times in America. Founded in 2012 by former TCC Chancellor Irma Johnson Hadley, Celebrating Strides has been a momentous occasion for the college community to work together and to create a distinctive program of excellence for attendees to learn powerful information and to leave with a renewed sense of inspiration. Past presenters at Celebrating Strides have included actor Thomas Michael Ford, legendary football coach Herman Boone, filmmaker Mike Byers, and author Yaba Bile. For this year's 11th annual Celebrating Strides, the theme is Making Money Moves. Our discussion, oh, I heard an amen, all right. I am in the right room. Our discussion today will entail what financial health and wealth means for various facets of the Black community. Our featured panelists represent entrepreneurship, finance, commerce, real estate, banking, and more. In addition to the in-person gathering that we see in this room at the TCC Northeast Campus, we are also streaming live to online attendees across our other 5 campuses. Thank you all for tuning in to join us for this occasion. We are tremendously grateful for our local and Black-owned businesses who participated in our Black Business Expo today. Let's give them a round of applause. I was just thinking about, I came over here with my credit card so I could support, and might have left with some bad habits. There was macaroni and cheese bar. Anyway, food truck, good, but wonderful to be able to support today. We just thank you so much to our Black businesses, our Fort Worth Black Chamber for being present, and for all of you for sharing in and supporting our Black businesses. Will all the African American business owners in the audience please stand? Thank you so much. We are tremendously grateful for these businesses, for participating with us today. Thank you so much for sharing your business with the Tarrant County College community. We hope that in addition to what has transpired today, that you will find lasting relationships with us in the days, months, and years ahead. Many of our campuses have held pre-conference workshops today prior to this main event. Thank you to those of you who led these workshops, and a special thank you is extended to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Beta Iota Omega Chapter, who hosted the workshop today on learning financial wellness that took place earlier this morning at the Northeast campus. Will members of the chapter please stand to be recognized? I am also really pleased to have members of our Chancellor's Cabinet present with us today. I see Dr. Sean Madison, president of our Trinity River campus, along with the two newest members of his team. I see Dr. Zarina Blankenbaker, from president of our Northwest campus, and if you would allow us to recognize you as well, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. We also have some other members of the cabinet who will join us later. It is also my joy to welcome Dr. Renetta Wright, who joins us from the district office, as well as Dr. Demesia Razzo. So thank you all for being here. All right, so we thank all of you for being in attendance today. We trust that you have had a great time and that you will enjoy today's event. So I hope you feel at home and that you feel warmly welcomed. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to some of you and to present to the others the amazing, the incomparable Dr. Shawanda Riley.
Dr. Ayers-Palmer, I'm honored for that introduction. Thank you so much, and I'm excited to be here, not just because of the food, because I love my fair share of good Southern food, but I'm also here to share with you the background information about this year's theme. I was honored to serve on the committee along with a number of the other committee members, and they'll receive recognition later in the program. But the theme this year, Making Money Moves, it has nothing to do with that lyric from Cardi B's song. Younger people may get that. We older people are like, I thought that was a quote by Earl Grace, which we'll talk about later. The theme was developed within a committee of faculty and staff from all campuses in the interest of educating attendees about the important topic of wealth and wealth building. Additionally, input came from TCC students, and I know we have TCC students here today. They were incorporated into the development of today's event. The committee discussed a number of things, including trials within the history of acquiring Black wealth. This included things like the Tulsa Race Massacre, which occurred in 1921, also known as Black Wall Street. That was when one of the wealthiest communities in America was burned and destroyed. Last week, TCC students, faculty, and staff visited the Greenwood Rising Museum in Tulsa and were enlightened and empowered by the history and the resolve of Black Tulsans. Trials like what occurred in Tulsa and that occurred in other communities in the United States have influenced generations of Black Americans to remember our ancestry and to make strides of excellence towards the future. Here's a quote from Earl Graves where he does talk about making money moves and about the importance of wealth. I believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate smart money move and the surest path toward wealth for African Americans. Far fewer Blacks than whites benefit from inherited wealth or assets. Entrepreneurship is the primary way to create the sort of wealth that can be passed on and built upon by succeeding generations, and that was Earl Graves Sr., the founder and publisher of Black Enterprise magazine. At this time, we would like to do, in the spirit of what Earl Graves talks about, and recognize the wonderful businesses that were a part of our Black Business Expo. We're going to give each one of the participants 1 minute to come up and introduce themselves and to share very briefly about your business. And so I'm just going to ask, and those of you that just started eating, I'm sorry, just put the fork down. The food will be on your plate. So we're just going to ask, we've got paparazzi. I'm just going to ask you all to come and line up right here to the left side of the podium. Come introduce yourself. Come on, come on, come. up. Yeah, just pop up like popcorn. No particular order. That way you can introduce yourselves, tell briefly about your business, like we said, 1 minute or less.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the TCC Northeast Campus for bringing us together, these like-minded individuals today. My name is Nikedra Rogers. I am a spiritual motivational speaker, author, and entrepreneur. My vision is to inspire, encourage, and assist others in helping to evolve with excellence. As a business owner, I sell affirmation t-shirts, and all of my words have scripture and meaning. Words such as chosen, healed, resilient, because you can make it through anything. I have written a book, Kneeling Earnestly for Transformation 30-Day Devotional. It will be available everywhere books are sold later this year. And I am just that person to remind you that you can make it through anything, that nothing is too hard, and to remember that God is on your side. I am the hope giver. Optimistically Key, that's me.
Hello everybody. My name is Catherine. I am the owner and CEO of my own business. It is called DKLS Boutique, and I feature paparazzi accessories, okay? And if you haven't heard of paparazzi accessories, you may be left in the dark. We sell $5 jewelry that is lead and nickel free, and we also do direct sales, and we do as well as signing up consultants. So I do have a team of 20 consultants, and I do believe in the business that works for you. If you work your business, it'll work for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maisha Bankhead, and I co-own Fat Burger in North Richland Hills, which is right down the street, and Fat Burger in North Arlington as well by the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. I am excited to be part of this community. Many may not know that Fat Burger started in Los Angeles, California in the 1950s by an African-American woman named Levy Yancey. And she wanted it to be a restaurant where no matter what your skin color, no matter what your background, you can get a hot meal any time of day. Even in Los Angeles in the 1950s, after a certain time, people of color could not go into restaurants. And so because of that, she became really popular in pop culture with the nightlife like Sammy Davis Jr., Red Fox, which transferred to Ice Cube, 2 in the morning, get a Fat Burger. But we're excited to bring the very first Fat Burger to the state of Texas, which is the North Richland Hills location. And now we also have our North Arlington location. So please come and check us out. We would love to have you. Thank you so much.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Jasmine Richardson, and today I am representing Vanita Petties, who is the owner and operator of Pink Glitter Events, and we do all type of event planning, wedding planning, full and partial planning. We also do birthday parties, and we have a second business that is Girls Who Twirl Cotton Candy. And if you think cotton candy is for babies, then our alcohol-infused cotton candy would probably say otherwise. So we have popcorn bars, churro bars. We do hot chocolate and coffee bars as well. And so we would be honored to provide those special things for your parties and events. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Frances Giroux, and I own Smack and Mac Gourmet Mac and Cheese. I am a food truck located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I currently have a few festivals coming up. One will be the Main Street Art Fest in downtown Fort Worth. I also rotate different universities. I do pop-ups at UT Arlington, and I also do contracts with AT&T Stadium and Six Flags. So I'd love to get to know everyone and come out to some of my events. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Smack and Mac, and I will have a list of all of my events and where I'll be popping up next. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Y'all can do better than that. Good afternoon. How you doing, everyone? My name is Jonathan Morrison, and I know many of you may know me as the son of Tarrant County Trustee District 6, Dr. Gwen Morrison, who served this community for over 45 years. And I just took that out of her little speech. But in 2018, I started a business to basically monetize the work that I was doing in the community already with my parents. And I started a company called Be Leverage, and we focus on urban planning, public relations, and event coordination that basically enhance community development. So basically we work with individuals, small businesses, as well as governmental entities to help them make better decisions about disseminating and allocating resources for the public. So thank you everyone in this room who has supported me in this time. And if you need something, a disruptive thinker for your company to help you scale or to help you grow, I'm your man. Have a blessed day.
And do we have any more businesses that are part of the expo? Okay, all right, last call. So they will be available in the lobby area. Just walk out, and as you're getting some additional food, turn left, and you'll see all these wonderful businesses. All right, so we're going to continue on with the program, and we're going to have the Negro National Anthem rendition by Kirk Franklin. I'm going to ask everybody out of respect to stand. The words are on your program. They should be. I'll lift every voice and sing. Y'all got the words? Do we need to start it off? All right, so we're going to say the DJ on the Wheels of Steel, if you would just go ahead and hit play. Turn it up just a little bit. Thank you.
I like this part right here. Come on. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the something to it. Just encourage you. We're gonna take it to church later. Let's go! We'll keep marching, fighting till the victory is won. To all my brothers out there. Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won. To all my sisters in the struggle. Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won. Till that day. Till that day comes. Hey. Let us march on. To victory. Till victory.
Wonderful. We're all now in Kirk Franklin's choir. All right, so as we continue on with the program, I just want to acknowledge we have some additional, and everybody now is like, I'm in the choir, I sing with Kirk Franklin, right? So we want to acknowledge vice presidents from other campuses that are here. Would you, would you stand as they're dimming the lights? Because we do want to acknowledge you as well for you coming to the campus. All right, we've got Vice President Jan Clayton from, thank you so much. You know, all right, so we've got Trinity River, right? Okay, all right, and you know what? Okay, we've got South Dr. Idoyaga. We've got Northwest, Dr. Jan Clayton. Oh, wait. We've got Trinity River, Dr. Ashley, Dr. Bro. Trinity, can you stand again? And also, yes, can you give, I can't see that far back. Thank you so much. All right, thank you for our vice presidents, our administrators. All right, thanks.
All right, at this time, I'm going to invite our featured panelists to the stage as we get started with our discussion. And I will be introducing them when they get on up here, so y'all can have your seat. Thank you. Let's welcome our panelists to the stage. All right. We have some very exciting wisdom on our stage to share with you all today. All right, so I'm going to start with Mr. Cal Quigley IV. Cal Quigley IV, founder of Quantum Prosperous, is a military veteran, entrepreneur, and a TCU professor. He was born and raised in the Stop 6 neighborhood of Fort Worth and traveled the world. Yes, we got Stop 6 in the house. He is the president of the ADVGENZ board, and pardon me if I didn't pronounce that correctly.
Advising Gen Z.
Advising Gen Z, very good. And serves as a mentor, business consultant, speaker, and chief investment officer. Also a member of the TCC family. So welcome, Cal Quigley IV.
Thank you.
All right, and next we have Simeon Henderson. Simeon Henderson is a proven leader who is focused on cultivating change and partnering with stakeholders to collectively lead community innovation. He most recently served as a senior project manager for Urban Strategies Incorporated and led the people implementation strategy for the Stop 6 Choice neighborhood initiative. Prior to joining USI, he spent a decade providing executive leadership with the YMCA organizations in Milwaukee, Kansas City, and Fort Worth. I know Simeon to be a very engaged leader and advocate in the Fort Worth and Tarrant County and beyond communities, so let's welcome Simeon. All right, next we have William Johnson, who is the Director of Economic Development for the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce. In this role since the late spring of 2022, he is responsible for developing business and economic development opportunities for the Chamber of Commerce members, which includes connecting members to contracting opportunities, connecting members to community partners that provide business technical assistance, facilitating and conducting business training and development sessions, and more. So let's welcome Mr. Johnson. All right, so next we have Starling Oliver. Starling is a native of Fort Worth. She earned her undergraduate degree from Grambling State University and her master's degree from Dallas Baptist University. She was the first Black promoted into the higher ranks of leadership with the #1 clinical reference laboratory in the country, Quest Diagnostics. And in this role, she led over 300 employees. She currently runs her own real estate business with Keller Williams. She has been a realtor for 4 years. She closed $10 million in volume in 2018. And she served as the chair of the education committee for the Arlington Board of Realtors. So let's welcome Starling. All right, and last but not least, we have Trey Talley. Trey grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and currently lives in Dallas, Texas. Detroit's in the house as well.
What up,
yeah. Trey started his career in the financial services industry in 2006 with Edward Jones Investments, where in a few short years, he built up a $5 million book of business. For the past 12 years, he has worked with J.P. Morgan Chase, where he managed over $100 million in assets, and most recently took a position as a vice president and senior financial advisor with Wells Fargo Advisors. outside of his career. He has a wonderful wife, Maya, who I concur is wonderful, and father to his daughter Noah and son Trey. So let's welcome Trey. All right, and then last but certainly not least, I want to welcome my friend and colleague, Fred Sandiford, to the stage, who will be moderating the discussion. He is an esteemed faculty member in our business department on the TCC Northeast campus, entrepreneur in his own right, and so he is going to be guiding our discussion today. So let's welcome Fred.
How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Well.
Well.
Check, check, 1, 2. Okay. Our president has such a nice voice, so I'm gonna try to make sure I keep my Barry White on and make sure that I have the same thing and can match that. Everybody doing all right today?
Yes, sir.
Family, y'all doing all right today? Well, you don't sound like you're doing all right. I need y'all to make some noise, you know. You just had Kurt Franklin on. We're all from Fort Worth, and I'm not gonna do my little spin around and like, are you with me? I'm not gonna do all that. But are y'all with me? Y'all with me, TCC fam? All right, let's have some fun today. So thank y'all for being here today, and we're gonna have some questions that are already prepared for our panelists, and then once we get done, then we will open up the floor and ask our audience to participate in some questions as well. All right, y'all ready to go?
Ready. Sir.
All right,
Sir.
let's get it done. Yeah, I like your energy. I like that.
I know.
Yes, yes, all right. So, and you all don't have to answer. Whoever feel led to answer, you're more than welcome to. So the first question is, what does wealth mean to you?
Well, I'll start off for sure. First and foremost, just thank you for the invite. It is an honor to be up here with such an amazing panelist, to be in the room with community leaders and thought leaders and educators. I am honored to be here. Apologies in advance. I do have a client meeting at 2, so I'll be running out of here at 1:30. But I'm happy to be here. For me, to answer your question, what is wealth? Wealth is subjective, for sure, depending on who you are. I am in the financial services industry, so when I think of wealth, I'm always going to think of money. So I'm only going to focus on the money side of wealth. You know, we can talk about emotional, health, familial, all those different types of wealth, but if we're talking about on the money side, to me, wealth is being able to finance your life. Whatever that may be, but being able to comfortably finance your life with as little stress as possible, that's what wealth is. Having an abundance to take care of all your needs, most of your wants, and some of your wishes.
Anyone else?
I would concur with that, and also I want to thank TCC for the invitation and for this event. And I'm just blessed to be in the midst of my other panelists. Had a chance to meet with some of them and talk to them a little bit, and very impressed with everyone here. To me, wealth, I would echo what he said. Wealth can be looked upon in a lot of different aspects, but when you're looking at it from a financial perspective, from a spiritual standpoint, it's overflow, where you want to be able to meet all of your needs comfortably, but have overflow to be able to do things that you would like to do, to be able to address emergencies that pop up, or maybe if you want to take a trip and on the spur of the moment where you're not stressed out because you're comfortable, all your needs are met, and you have overflow, not only to meet your own needs, but to also be a blessing to others.
And what are some of your biggest, do you have, I don't want to stop you, Cindy.
Well, no, I was just going to add, well, first of all, thank you all. And I second what both of these gentlemen shared around their perspective of wealth. The other piece that I will add to that is really about the next generation as well. So as a father, I'm thinking forward for my son and making sure that I create a pathway for him as well to not have to worry about some of the things that as a young person I had to worry about. So just adding beyond myself, and then also the capacity to give back from a philanthropic standpoint as well. So as a former nonprofit executive, I was a professional beggar, essentially, asking for money as a fundraiser. But I want to make sure that I create a pathway where I can give as well at a high level to be able to support some community needs that I feel near and dear to my heart.
Real quick, Freddie, I'll just add that, just to underscore what everybody said here, wealth is freedom to me. That's how I see it, because it gives you the time back that you didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, having, like they said, I was at TCC for 12 years, but being able to be in a position now where I can make every daughter's game, I can go out of town when she has, you know, volleyball tournaments and all that kind of stuff. So for me, wealth equals freedom.
I love it. Yeah, good job, good job. All right, and on that point about generational wealth, how does one go about building generational wealth?
Well, in this country, generational wealth is built two ways. One, through real estate, two, through life insurance. And so when we look at the black community specifically, that is where we've missed the boat because of, you know, redlining, those kind of things, of course. But now as we move into the 2020s, still not taking advantage of those opportunities that do exist now. If I were to poll everybody in here that was black and say, how many of you have trust set up for your family? I can almost guarantee it'd be less than 10%. And the reason why is because the information is there, but we're not taking that information and actually doing anything with it.
What is a trust? No, I would add as well that I think that for me, a pathway is entrepreneurship. So one thing as a professional, I had a blessed career, but I also realized that I could not pass my job to my son. So I wanted to establish a business that he can inherit as well as his future siblings, hopefully. But so yeah, that's what's important for building generational wealth for me is, for me, small business right now, and those real estate and insurance and trust.
Just to add to that, and as these two gentlemen kind of displayed, there's no one right answer. It varies from person to person. But the biggest thing is to be intentional about it and to have a plan. So if you're not starting with a plan, if you don't know your goals and you haven't written down those goals and you haven't talked to someone who specializes in whatever field that is, and kind of come up with tactics to kind of accomplish those goals, you're already behind the ball. You have to have a curiosity for building wealth. And if you aren't reading or you aren't researching people who are wealthy doing the things that you want to do, then maybe you really don't desire to be wealthy in that arena. Absolutely. So you should have a healthy curiosity in whatever it is you're trying to pursue. And you should start with a plan. You have to start with a plan no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Generational wealth is taught, hence the name generational. It's taught from one generation to the next.
Yes.
And so when you have been a people that has been suppressed, where the playing field hasn't always been leveled, you don't know what you don't know. And so I come from the perspective of I teach, I educate, I share. Whatever I want to get in life, I give it away. If I want kindness, I give it away. If I want money, I give it away. If I want time, I give it away. And so it's going in grassroots, teaching individuals that their life, what they see today, does not have to be, and it is a process. It starts with a mindset. We have a broke and a broken mentality, a broke and a broken mindset. My oldest daughter bought her first home 2 years ago. She's on track to pay it off by the end of this year. Wow. Because that's what I have taught her. I have 3 kids. They're all adults. None of them have any debt. When they buy a car, they buy it with cash. I've taught them that whatever you buy, if you can't pay it off in 2 years, you cannot afford it. Right. So it's teaching at the grassroots level from one generation to the next.
Very good.
And not being afraid that someone is going to get ahead of you. That's the goal.
Exactly.
That's how we move upward. When you get ahead, you pull me up. When I get up, I'm going to pull you
That's
back
right.
up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very, very good. Very good. So give us the top 3 things a person needs to do to be successful.
What?
In business or what?
Yeah, what's the top 3 things a person needs to do to be successful in wealth or in business?
I would say, well, as Trey said earlier, it could be a lot of different things, but from my perspective, one of the things is the ability to listen. You have to be able to listen and understand what others are saying. You have to be able to listen and receive feedback from others around you, and honestly digest it. Secondly is don't try and reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of brilliant people who are out there who've already gone where you've gone. So don't try and reinvent the wheel. And then thirdly is value people, and value people in customer service and how you can help others if you want to be successful. And try to approach things and do things the right way. Because sometimes business opportunities can present themselves, but they may not always be the right way. And sooner or later, it will catch up with you. Sometimes it's better to say no and back up and go a different direction. Even though it may be appealing, it's better to back up and do it the right way. Don't take shortcuts.
Good. Anybody else?
I mean, I would add, I think it's important to be a problem solver. So to identify a issue or something that you're passionate about and then bring meaningful solutions to it. For example, I started a business, it's called Stable Foundation Home Improvement, and we specialize in modifying homes for people that have physical limitations. So we make their homes ADA compliant. We're a full-scale restoration company, so we can build this building, but our particular niche in this particular industry is working with people with disabilities. And it's been fairly lucrative. It's been, paying my bills. So, but it also fulfills a need in the community. So I think that's one of the most important things. You also have to have knowledge in that industry. So I had a construction and remodeling background, home improvement from a residential standpoint, but then understanding the aspect of ADA compliance is a completely different skill. So just sharpening that, and I like what you said, just really listening as we serve our clients. That's one of the things that we have to really listen to what they need. It's not about my perspective of what they need. It's about going in, listening, let them tell their story, and me then use my creativity to then present something that's going to be useful to them. So problem solving, expertise, and listening to the people you're serving.
Excellent. Very, very good.
And I would add one more, and that is relationship building.
Yes.
Understanding how to connect with people and build relationships. Because if you're good at that and you're intentional with that and genuine with that, business will follow.
Exactly.
And I underline and emphasize genuine.
Genuine.
To piggyback off that, like your net worth is determined by your network. So if we're talking about the three things that really indicates success, one, again, I'm gonna go back to it, I'm gonna reemphasize it. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. I'm reading the 12, I just finished reading, and I'm doing the workbook for the 12-week year now. Talking about accomplishing more in 12 weeks than what most people do in a year. And segmenting it down and putting really intentional goals in place to kind of achieve whatever your objectives are. So start with a plan always and educate yourself. That's the biggest thing. It's so much knowledge in books and podcasts, and we live in 2023 where everything is at our fingertips. Anything that we're curious about, we can click on a button and we can get the answer to. So that's number one, have a plan and do research. Two, treat people well.
Yes.
Be good to people. Treat people as if I don't believe in the golden rule. I say the platinum rule. You treat people how they want to be treated. You make sure that you always act with integrity. When you put good things in the universe, good things always come back. And on that last point, you got to give back. Nothing in life that you receive is because of you alone. It was always some foundation before you, and there'll be foundation after you, and there'll be exterior influences that help you get to where you are. Whether you're religious or not, I'm a pre-K, so me, it's always only through the grace of God. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, on the east side. We grew up in my grandma's 2-bedroom house, 12 deep. So we started really, really poor. I was the first person, I'm 39, to graduate from college, so you think about being 39 and seeing that. That means that we're starting from square one. How dare I not pour back into the community, not sit on days like this and talk to people that I may be able to influence and help. How dare I not give back? Because it's only through the grace of God that I'm able to be here today. So always Always keep that in mind. How do you give back? How do you pour into other people? And just one more point, black people in general, we are the most philanthropic, he talked about earlier, people in the U.S. per capita. We give more than any other group of people, period. One, because when we come up, guess what? We have a lot of people around us that may not have the same variables or the same opportunities. So we can't come up alone. We got to take care of other people around us. So keep that in mind and say, how do I push this to the next generation?
To Trey's point, I have the distinct pleasure of being able to mentor a lot of men from Stop Six. One of my star pupil right there, A.J. Morrison. But I always, sit down, brother. I always start off talking about three things: excellence, integrity, and service before self. Just to encapsulate kind of what everybody said.
Could you say that again?
Excellence, integrity, and service before self. So those are the three things that I mentor through. And everything else kind of takes care of itself through that framework. And so, especially when we talk about service before self, AJ and I started a event, man, what was that, 06, 07, called Feed the Hood over in the Calville Projects. And what we did is on Thanksgiving, so when we grew up, you probably can attest to this, brother down there, Trey from Detroit. The drug dealers used to show up and give turkeys and bites and all of that kind of stuff. And so what we said is, hey, we're successful black men. Let's do what they used to do, but let's take that, because they created a vacuum essentially when they took those people out of the neighborhood. So we said we'll fill that gap, and we'll go in and tell them and show them what it looks like to be a successful black man. And so we've been doing that, for a number of years, but that's just a small piece of what, again, that framework will take care of if you learn through that lens.
It's always a little bit different being a black female. The rules are somewhat different. If we're too passionate, we're perceived as being something else other than a lady. So it's always different for me. I'm always mindful of when I'm in a room of how I must command the room. So confidence is key. You must be passionate about what you do, and you must understand your big why. The reason most business owners fail is not because of capital, it's because they don't know why they're doing it.
Exactly.
You must understand your big why in order to be successful and in order to sustain it.
Good, real good. All right. So what are some of your biggest successes being a business owner, leader, and how did your failures help you in your success?
So biggest success for me, and I'm not sure what I sent Kara. I should have had my admin send it. I've been in real estate now for 9 years. On average, I sell about 60 homes a year. I don't talk really about money because money is good for all the good in which money can do. And people don't really care about your money. They only care about their money. But I have been able to bring on I have 2 administrative assistants. And probably my biggest accomplishment is allowing my husband, after 35 years of working for the post office, to retire.
Amen.
And now he's able to care for our young adult son who is struggling with mental illness. And that's huge to have my husband be able to have the presence in our son's life as a young African-American male struggling with mental illness. You can imagine what that's like. So that's probably my biggest success. I have, for 7 years, finished in the top 3% in our office. Our office have averaged anywhere from 750 agents to about 350. In 2020, I finished as the #1 agent in our office. So again, I'm going to say this and I'll turn it over to these guys. I cannot implore enough that the land does not care who the farmer is. The land will reap a harvest for whoever decides to work it. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, skinny, fat, the land will reap a harvest for whoever decides to work it. I built my business knocking on doors, and I still knock on doors. Oftentimes, and we've heard this before, hard work opportunity is disguised in overalls. Get out there and work the land.
That's a word.
That is.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's a word.
I'll answer the question, but first thing I want to say is, having worked here for 12 years, I'm discouraged when I look out amongst the crowd. And the reason why is because the students that need to be here aren't here. So I would encourage the administration here, figure out how to get the students here. If that's shutting down classes, encouraging the classes to come here, I feel like we're preaching to the choir. Most people in here are probably on the same level with a lot of stuff that we're saying. But the students who are in those classrooms are the ones that should be here hearing this information. I'll get off my soapbox.
And it's funny that you said that, because I need all your contact, because I do plan on you coming to my class.
Okay, all right, I'm there.
Exactly.
I would say my greatest success, I was able to purchase a home for my in-laws. My wife is first generation from Mexico. They had 6 kids. They've been farmers all their life. They never graduated high school, 4th and 7th grade education. But because we were put in a financial situation where our cup runneth over, we were able to purchase them a home back in Mexico, and they're going to be retiring and moving there within the year. And so I would say, for me, that's probably my greatest success. When I was sitting here trying to think about a failure, I thought of 8 things that I didn't do very well, but I've learned from each one of those failures.
Yeah.
So I would say I don't know if I necessarily have any failures, because I look at failures as lessons.
Real good.
I would add, before I say that, I just want y'all to know I'm from Milwaukee. I hear everybody representing where y'all from. Just let y'all know. I'm from the block of Milwaukee, so Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the house.
You got 1% in the room right there.
Okay, there we go. I knew somebody was from Milwaukee. All right, I digress. So I think my biggest success is the ability to be independent. And that is not an easy thing to do. I worked in corporate America my whole entire career. I was in the Marine Corps, and then I got out and, just served at a very high level, and primarily in the nonprofit industry. So now, having a for-profit business and serving also as a consultant, I'm independent enough that nobody in Fort Worth paid me enough to, I don't work for anyone essentially. And I thank God for the relationships that I've had, and I thank God for the opportunities that have been presented to me through Fort Worth and other communities. But I think that's the biggest success, because I understand that my ancestors did not have a day off. I also understand that they did not have a vacation, and that they did not have time to rest. So for me to be able to create that in my lifetime, even my mom to this day worked in a factory. She's worked there for 45 years, right? So hopefully, like you were able to support your in-laws, I'll be able to do the same for my parents in my lifetime. So I think that's the biggest success through lessons learned and losses and, making mistakes. Hey, we're human, so I've made my share of mistakes throughout my career, throughout working in several different communities. Another thing I like to add is the ability to navigate foreign spaces. So being a Marine, being able to go overseas, being able to not only navigate the Fort Worth community, but other communities I've served in, that takes really a listening ear, as you mentioned, but then also your fearlessness and finding some commonality wherever you are, regardless if you're in a room with women, men, black, white, LGBT, it doesn't matter. We all have something in common, and being able to find that one thing that we have in common and build off of that.
Just to add to that, I'll say my biggest success has been really for me, my work in the community. I've had the privilege to serve as the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League Young Professionals. And it's just auxiliary of volunteers, no budget. And we were, especially during the pandemic, which disproportionately impacts people that look like us, most of us in this room. We were able to raise over $100,000 and really start a COVID giving fund. So as a leader, to kind of galvanize a group of volunteers where you have no formal authority, and really help people kind of achieve their life purpose. That's a big success. Some of the things I've just been able to do by being bold and stepping out. Me and my wife, we were able to buy a vacation cabin last year in Broken Bow. TheGoodVibeCabin.com, check it out, it's amazing. But just to be able to do something, to be able to live out my mother's wildest dreams for me, and for her to see it and be proud of it, that's the big thing. If we're talking about failures, and I'm still battling this, it's taking for granted some of the gifts that's been bestowed upon me. And, you know, I always say I'm a career underachiever because I don't know if I ever worked as hard as I possibly can. And that does a great disservice to the people who came before me, and I recognize that I'm working on it. Sometimes I think motivation is always going to wane. So now I'm working on how do I maintain discipline at all times. Instead of being motivated, just be disciplined. Do the same things I'm supposed to do time and time again. And with that, I do have to leave. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your time.
All right, great, thank you. All right, appreciate you. All right, see, I got my plug right there. All right, you want to open it up to the audience? Anybody have questions?
Outside of your family, how do you plan on replicating yourself?
Outside of our families, how do we plan on replicating ourselves? I'm a productivity coach, so I teach new agents. I get them into productivity. I work with a company called Thrive 7, and so we're developing new agents to get them into productivity. Real estate is hard. Real estate is the most challenging thing I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding. 80% of all new agents get out of the business within the first 2 years. Wow. One, they didn't have the money that they needed in order to get in, because you're not going to see your first closing on average until 120 days. So that means you're going 120 days with no pay, and they don't anticipate that. And two, it's not what they think it is. They think they're going to get in and show houses all the time. That's rarely what we do, like rarely what we do. It really is about relationships and navigating through paperwork and praying we don't get sued because we filled out something wrong. So I coach new agents.
Good. I would say from my perspective, it's being able to pour into other people's lives, to be able to counsel and give insight and understanding. What little God has given me as he brings people across my path, and being able to be sensitive to that and to do it intentionally. Because there are a lot of people out there that God will bring across your path, and it's for a reason. And so again, being able to listen, but then being able also to shed light and understanding, whatever understanding light you have, to be able to share it with someone else.
Amen. Amen.
About a decade ago, I was part of an organization called Running Rebels, and we started, you know, Rebel, okay, there we go. Milwaukee. All the way to Milwaukee. And it's amazing, right? And there was a program that I helped to pilot. It was called Pipeline to Promise versus Pipeline to Prison. And it was an initiative that was focusing on young men in particular that we were working with who all were adjudicated for felony level crimes, so on and so forth. And what we did was we purchased some real estate and we hired contractors, that's what made me start my business. That's the other portion of it. And what we did was we made sure that if we have electricians or plumbers or whatever whatever the case was, we had a young person there with them. That was the only way you could get a contract. We're like, in order for you to if you're going to do the plumbing, you need to let this young person shadow you. And that's really important to me because as we think of succession planning, and I look at the young people in this room, and some of y'all old folks too, but I'm playing with y'all. But as I look at the beautiful faces in the room, we're all close to the same age.
There you go.
40 and up. But one of the things I know is that the next generation is the people that's going to take care of us. So there are future doctors, lawyers, architects, so on and so forth. So being able to invest in them now, while I still have the energy, is really important to me. So creating models like that, I believe is going to be really important. Of course, my son is going to be in the succession plan as well. But beyond him, I believe it's really important to have young people people, like you mentor this man who got his own business. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
that is part of that pipeline, is grabbing those young people that are ambitious, or whether they're not ambitious. I like what Trey said, just being disciplined enough to continue to show up is what's most important. So that's kind of my model of succession planning.
When I returned from the Air Force, I started a nonprofit back in Stop 6 called Reforming Academics. And so what we did with that program is, you know, I lost about 40 good friends between 92 and 96 coming up. And so a lot of their sons were still around. Some of them were getting out of prison. So we set this program up because a lot of them were dropping out of high school. Of course, our first message was don't drop out of high school. That's the first thing. But secondly, if you decide this is what you want to do, we need to give you some practical skills so you can feed yourself. And so we connected with, when we first started, we had British Aeronautical Engineers, we had Empowerment Center run by David Howard. So we had all of these different avenues for them to go and get some real life training. And then for me, you know, teaching at TCC for a while, and then I'm at TCU now. So still using that same framework to help, you know, young men of color, especially at TCU, because there's not a lot there for them. It's a lot taken from them, not a lot of given to them. And so just setting up those structures so we can make sure that we are able to help those young men.
I think that young lady had a question in the back.
Which one? All right, question.
Thank y'all students for coming.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question for all of you. So take yourself back when you were 16, 15, 17, 18, 19.
Oh, you don't want that. Thank God for change. My God.
Whenever that time frame, what I would like to know, who or what happened, what caused like an event, or if someone motivate you, or who instigated this path for you and made you decide, I'm going to be someone successful in the future, and I'm going to be different, and I'm going to be that person, that example for rest of them. That was it.
That's a heavy question, but ladies first, you want to answer?
Okay, I will. It's always been my mother. Has always been my mother. I remember being 16 years old and looking at one of my mother's paychecks. My mother was, she was a middle school dropout. She had to go and work and pick cotton with her family. So her highest education was 8th grade. And I remember being 16 years old and looking at one of her paychecks, and at that time she was making $77,000 a year. My mother is gone now. She would be 83 this year, but she made $77,000 when I was 16 years old, and that was over 38 years ago. Some of y'all are trying to calculate my age right now.
No.
And I thought, if she can do it with an 8th grade education, how much more so can I do it? And remember when I said my big why is my mother. Your big why should make you tear up. Everything I do for my mother. And she's been gone for 10 years next month. I had no other choice but to be successful because of all she invested and sacrificed for me.
That's a real deep, reflective space for me, and I second my father. So my father was two situations. So my father, he went blind at the age of 31 from glaucoma. He was the breadwinner of our family, which led my mom to, unfortunately, have to go into the labor force. So thinking of him, who's 78 years old, my parents are coming up on 50 years of marriage, which is amazing. But I think of just what he was able to do. He always just really was a strong person, the leader of our home, very well respected in the community, and I didn't want to let my parents down. That was one of the key things. Two, I think from an individual standpoint, I was also raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, And in 2018, there was an article from New York Times that said Milwaukee was the #1 segregated city in America.
Wow.
And with that comes all the other social ills that you can imagine around public health and just incarceration, so on and so forth. So I was also involved in a street life that I'm not proud of, but I remember at the age of 18, just turned 18 years old, I got shot at, and I was driving, it doesn't matter what I was driving, but anyway, I got shot at. and it was the 80-mile Bronco, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the OJ. So that moment really scared me, and it scared me because not only did I see other young people lose their lives at 16, 15 years old, I knew I was better than that, better in the way that I didn't want to die on the concrete and someone build someone's church the next day or have a memorial on the street sign, you know, memorializing me at the age of 18 years old. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a 1.4 GPA. At that time, I was doing some illegal things in the community, which I'm not proud of, but I made a decision then that I was going to do something better, and that was April of 2020. Oh, 2020. 2000. I'm going out 3 hours of sleep, y'all. That's the entrepreneur life. It ain't for everybody. And at that moment, I remember going into the Army. One of my guidance counselor, he would always tell me, "Hey, Simeon, you're gonna be dead or in jail, or somebody baby daddy." And I'm like, I ain't gonna be none of those things. But I didn't have a pathway out. So I remember joining the Marine Corps at 18 years old. Didn't know what I was getting into. I heard over time, military ain't for no black man, so on and so forth. And I was like, well, what is, right? So I decided at that time I was gonna go and just change my environment. I didn't know what I was getting into. So if I made one decision that changed the trajectory of my life, I believe that one decision, coupled with just what my parents have always gave us a wonderful foundation to be successful. So when I think of my siblings, every one of them are in leadership roles, but it started with what we were taught at home, but then also my own individual circumstances pushed me beyond my comfort zones.
That's good.
I think we could all probably say our parents to start out with, but I was sitting here thinking about a great woman. Her name is Shirley Knox Benton. She ran Dunbar High School, and she came in 1992 when I was a freshman. She was the first one that told us it can be done, and we all knew that, and we believed it. Why? Because our administrator, our head principal, told us it can be done. And so throughout those, if you look at Dunbar during those years when she was there, you'll see how many people went out with scholarships, how many times we won UIL competitions, not in basketball, which is what we were known for, but in academics. And so having administrators in place that believed in you and that forced you to do some things that were outside of your comfort zone forced us to go up to the next level. She didn't lower the bar. She raised the bar. Shirley Knox Benton was here. She'd have this full of students, and they'd be asking questions because she would have sat with them before and said, hey, when these people come, don't waste their time. Ask them a question. Write it down now. So those kind of people in my life are who kind of push me forward, her specifically.
For me, it's several people. First of all, I know God has had his hand on me.
Absolutely.
Because like the saying goes, except for the grace of God, there go I. And if it wasn't for God, there's no telling where where I would be. Then, of course, the example of my mother. I remember her waking up early in the morning during school days and getting us up, and she was at that time single mother, and she worked real hard to provide for us. And then beyond that, I had an uncle who was like a big brother. We're about 10 years apart. He is a pastor and used to always take up time with me, and he poured a lot into me. My spiritual father in the ministry, his discipline and his understanding of God's word, how to live it and apply it. And then also, everybody's dropping where they're from, Dunbar High School.
Okay.
79 graduate.
Okay,
I played for Coach Robert Hughes. And Coach Hughes was instrumental in my life also. Just his tenacity, his discipline, and just who he was as a person, a lot of that was poured into me. And then beyond that, a lot of teachers that took an interest in me and poured into me. So it's sort of a collection of a lot of people. And there's a saying, and it's true, we're all the sum of our life experiences, and we're all the sum of individuals that we have met and that have poured into our lives.
That's true. That's good. That's good. That's
Thank
true.
you so much
That's
for
true.
coming today. Every one of you were outstanding, and thank you for sharing with us. And we appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you so
And
much.
do not leave without me getting your contact. All right, Kara, we're back in your hand.
All right, let's have one more round of applause for our panel and for our moderator, Professor Sandifer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, we have a question.
Hi.
I hope it's not redundant, but I think his name was Trey, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But when he said that, like, the first thing is, like, after mindset, like, you guys were telling us the stories of, like, how you come here, like, who it took to get here. But after you've made the decision to, like, I do want to be successful, and I will be successful, in terms of planning, how did that come about? Like, because I get it, like, okay.
No, you good. Take your time. Take your time.
Because it's like what you were saying the why and how important it is and how important it is to have an anchor. And I understand that, because that is true, or you'll get lost at sea. But it's like after you do that, how do you know what direction to go into? And how do you know what works for you outside of just like deciding to like have experience? You know what I mean? Like that very first one?
Yeah.
Like, how does that come about again?
So I got introduced to dream boards. Write this down if you're taking notes. There's two documentaries I want you to watch. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 22.
Oh, yeah, you good. You right there. So one is The Secret. The second is Think and Grow Rich. Those two will give you a lot of foundation for the question you just asked. For me, the exercise me and my family do every year is we create dream boards and we replace, what we have accomplished or what we're changing the dream for this year. Those kind of things are the leading light that helps you check those boxes off as you're going along. So at the beginning of the year, you say, I want to, lose 20 pounds. I want to make $1 million, whatever. If it's not written, first of all, it doesn't exist. If it's just here, it really doesn't exist. So create a dream board and meditate on it. My dream board sits on my dresser. It's the first thing that I see when I get up in the morning. So I don't have a TV on my dresser. I have a dream board. So that's where I spend my meditation time. And so those kind of things, those are the tools that you're going to put in place. So when you get 30 and you look back at your dream board, check, 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 on to the next thing.
I would add another resource as well as Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was one of the books that I read by Robert Kiyosaki. I was maybe 18, 19 years old, and it just really start to shape and mold my perspective of money and just things. But specifically around goal setting, I love what you just said about just being able, if you could see it, you could be it type of deal. But for me, it was really around passion, and there's something that always is going to consistently show up for you. And wherever you are, you're going to just naturally gravitate to that. And I think once you identify what that is, then you go and you build your strategy around that. And strategy, one thing that I wanted to mention is like this idea of cooperative economics. So one of the key principles of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa. I believe I said it right, it's Swahili, but it means cooperative economics. So once you then build or identify what that why is for you, I believe building a community around that, and whatever that means to you, whatever that looks like. But I realize that any of the work that I've ever done, I cannot do by myself, and I choose not to. It's just too much work to try to achieve certain things by yourself. So there's people in this room that will tap into you. I mean, look at the table that you're sitting at right now. I mean, you have 2 presidents of colleges, you know what I mean? So you're amongst really wonderful people and being able to leverage the environment that you're in, and then you got to have the tenacity to take those blows. You're going to lose sometime, you're going to win. I think you said it is about you live long enough, it's all going to balance out, so just stay at it at 22. I just got out the Marine Corps, and I was like, what am I going to do next? And here I am, 20 years later, so.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, understanding where your gifts are, and everyone sort of touched on that. You used the word passion, but also where your gifts are. And typically where your gifts are the things that you do well, that you may even take for granted because you think everybody else can do them, but they can't because those are your gifts. And that's why it seems effortless to you. And so it's having a certain self-awareness about where your gifts and your strengths are. And allowing, as you move into life, as he said, when he got out of the Marine Corps, he didn't know exactly what was next. As you move down the road of life, being sensitive to doors that are open and walking through some of those, closing others. But in all of it, understanding and searching out, and it can be a journey. It's not necessarily an automatic thing, where you really start understanding where your gifts are. And then once you understand where your gifts are, then nurture and cultivate those gifts and grow in those gifts and walk in those gifts.
Absolutely.
So it's really true. Leaders are readers. I do a lot of reading, but I'm not going to guide you to a book. What are you passionate about? Our passion will get us paid, and it will allow us to pay it forward. I'm passionate about real estate. Real estate pays me, and it pays me well. I am passionate about children in the foster care system. So I'm a board member for Harvest House, which is a house where we house children who are about to age out of the foster care system. They're difficult to place. I am passionate about the homeless. So I am a board member of Women's Life. We are a nonprofit organization where we fight homelessness and hunger. I am also a member of White Women in Power, Empowering, which is a philanthropic group. We give money in order to support and scholarship women in the community who may be starting their own businesses or who may want to get a certification or a license or a CNA. So I believe that you have to give as much as you get. And because real estate gives me a lot, I got to give a lot back. So what are you passionate about that will pay you? And what are you passionate about that what you get paid from allows you to pay it forward? And whoever is doing what you're passionate about, and believe it or not, this came from my son. At the time he was 14, I'm starting real estate, and he said, Mama, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to grow a big business. And he said, how do you want to grow it? And I told him how I wanted to grow it, and he said it from the mouths of babes. He said, Mama, who's already doing it? You need to hang out with them. And I was like, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
So whatever it is you want to do, who's doing it? And more than likely, they'll let you hang out with them for a day or two. So figure out what you're passionate about. Again, passion will get you paid, and passion will allow you to pay it forward.
Can I add one last thing to that? If you haven't heard of Mr. William M. McDonald, he's a Fort Worth legend. He was the first black millionaire in the state of Texas, and he was born in 1866. Both of his parents were slaves, and he not only started a business right down on 5th and Jones downtown in Fort Worth, where the Texas A&M, that entire area, he owned that from 5th and Jones to like 15th and Jones. And his story is such a beautiful story. In 2019, when I was executive director with the Y, I opened that facilities on the south side of Fort Worth. It's called the William M. McDonald Y. It was a $16 million development. And if you go inside, there's a history wall that tells, it's a chronological timeline. Shameless plug, I wrote it, y'all. So. But he's amazing. And since really understanding his story, I embodied his mindset of being able to go through tough times, and imagine Jim Crow and all of that. But then he also became, he opened the Fraternal Bank and Trust, which was in 1912, and the idea behind that, he was a Masonic person, or he was part of that initiative, and he brought together his Masonic brothers and sisters to be able to invest into each other. And he became the beacon of hope throughout Fort Worth at that particular time. So I'm not going to tell his whole story. I love telling it, but his story is so real to me, and hopefully if you Google him and you have an opportunity to learn his story, he's a native of this area, and he's really revolutionized really how we can do business in this community, and it doesn't matter. This is before Black Wall Street. Matter of fact, he was a silent investor in Black Wall Street. So the brother had money. Last thing I'm gonna say about him, 1929, when the banks, when the Great Recession happened, right? He was the only bank out of 5 banks in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that did not fail, and he was able to bail out several white banks. So there's ability within our lifetime that we can do several things, and once you find that passion, his was being able to support his community, And hopefully you'll have a great story someday as well. What's your name? Iman. We're gonna be looking out for you,
Yes,
Iman.
ma'am.
You're gonna make some headways. So that's it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let us thank our very just esteemed panelists. What a full discussion today.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a token of appreciation for you from Tarrant County College, and we're so grateful for you imparting this wonderful knowledge to our campus community here in person, as well as streamed to all of our campuses and to our online attendees. To all of you here, of course, to all of you online, thank you all so much for participating in Celebrating Strides, and we will see you all next year. Oh, before I go, if you were part of the planning for this wonderful event, could you stand either here or at your campus? Yes.
Thank you all.
This was a large undertaking that really required a cross-district team effort, so everyone's efforts are greatly appreciated. So thank you all so much. We do have food here in Northeast, if you would like to take some to go, and y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Panel, I didn't see you. We was all sitting over there.
Yes, ma'am.